That's very considerate of
Sharing things.
you.
Yeah. Chale, so just let me know when you want to resume this call.
Oh,
Do I hang up now?
we can just chit
Ah,
chat.
okay.
Anila, Amrita will just join when she joins, unless you
Okay.
want to go
So
make a quick cup of chai or something like that.
I'm fasting, bhai.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
of
yes.
course.
That's okay. अब क्या करूं भाई, पहले रोजा रखा था, फिर उसका सारा सवाब इरफान खान को देना था, फिर दूसरा रोजा रखा वो ऋषि कपूर को किया है।
Oh dear.
एक तो रोजा मैं अपने लिए भी रख लूं।
I haven't done a single roza this Ramzan, and my daughter has done like 3 half days already. So I'm like now feeling guilty. Like, wait, what is going on?
नहीं, but the thing is कि वो what is it that they had once said कि मतलब अगर नहीं लगा तो रोजा है, अगर लग गया तो फिर रोजी है ना? So what I'm going to do is when it's all relaxed like this, I can be very spontaneous. एक बार when the recording begins now, I will really clam up. So I had some questions of you. I would like to record them now, and if they work, then you could include them as Anilaisms, as I say. Okay.
Okay.
So my first question for you is, Amrita was very clear that the Khandaan just included like Amir, Shah Rukh and Salman, and I really wanted to know why so? Saif is more Khan than them. Like Saif to koi सफेदा वाला आम तो नहीं है ना कि like गिनती में नहीं है, right? But लगता तो है. And then she says नहीं, it's them. तो अगर आप लोग का you'll get a reference. अगर आप लोग का ईमान कहते कि इस दिन पे इन 3 खानों पे हमारा वो complete हो गया ना आज के दिन, है ना? तो उनसे पहले भी जो पैगंबर गुजरे थे जैसे यूसुफ खान था, तो उनको क्यों नहीं इंक्लूड किया है?
I blame it all on Asim.
I think I was listening to this podcast. उसका नाम था Denzel is the greatest actor ever or something like that. The greatest actor ever in the world. और उसकी मुझे I like the constraint of that idea. पहले वो आई थी Dogma 95. In the late early 2000, where they were we can't use external lights, we can't use a background score. And I like that constraint in a podcast, because the last one, when we were doing You Podcast, we were just let's talk about everything, 'cause that started 10 years ago and podcasting was new. So there was no format, there was no nothing. And then when I was like, okay, we need something very constrained, but I can't do just one actor, like a Denzel thing, so I would get bored. And then the idea was also just kind of SEO and Twitter conversation these three, there's something special about them where you add Saif, it doesn't become the same thing anymore. You know what? Then it becomes more about Khans as a naming convention than these 3 actors that have kind of shaped cinema. So that was kind of the thinking, I guess. There's no rule. I think after this episode, we should make Irrfan Khan an honorary Khan for the Khandaan podcast. But also for my thing is I don't want to watch Yusuf Khan movies. I don't want to watch Irfan Khan movies, So I'm just a commercial masaledar Bollywood watcher, I can't do camera mein dekh raha hai galiyon mein and all that. What was that movie? Was that him or Manoj Bajpayee? I think it was Manoj Bajpayee. I'm not sure.
What are you talking about? क्या कैमरे में?
ये कह रहे हैं कि अमृता ये अहले किताब है ना, तो बस वो 3 पैगंबरों पे ही है, होली ट्रिनिटी जो है, तो बस ठीक है, बस मूसा खान है, ईसा खान है, but the prophet मोहम्मद है, right? तो उससे बस आगे पीछे कुछ नहीं दिखेगा.
Yeah, मुझे बस simplicity काम आती है, वरना I get lost. I was referencing Gali Guliyan, which was with Manoj Bajpayee, not Irfan Khan.
But it's also the fact that it sparks a lot of controversy on Twitter, because everybody is like, why only these 3 Khans? And that sort of keeps us in the conversation,
It's all about SEO. That's it. Nobody cares about anything else.
So I've already started recording my end, so we can do the clap anytime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anila, when Asim says, just clap your hands. That's basically it.
Okay. So
our high five.
Self high five because social distancing.
Yeah. Recording is on, right? Everybody's recording is on. The
Yeah, yeah.
secondary, the phone is on, Anila?
Yeah, I just record my bits. It's paused right now. So
No, just
abhi paused hai.
no. Keep
Go
it
for it.
like on. Switch it on and keep it on. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
No, but I thought I would then give you like a file which has just my bits.
No. Record the whole thing. Record the whole thing.
No,
Don't.
your phone will only record your bits, that's fine. But like,
yes.
just keep it on the whole time.
Okay, ठीक है.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
You'll
then it
forget
becomes
about it. Just switch
easier.
it on and forget about it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
then it'll become easier to like just
Sync
sync
it.
the tracks, basically.
Okay.
On?
Yes.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, clap. One more time. 3, 2, 1, clap. Okay, good enough. Good enough. So, Anila, you had more questions about us. Was that the only question, or?
Off the top of my head, that's the only question I can
I thought you had a list prepared. Like, why do you do it?
No, this LA Kitab wala was really bothering me. I think I kept on like pestering Amrita about this.
Yeah.
And बस ये था कि like I like being a front bencher and मतलब आपने तो एक दिन पहले ही पूरा syllabus बदल दिया भाई. दीवाना मुझसे नहीं रट के से याद किए थे with reference to context ना. तो
Yeah.
बस यहाँ पे तो खैर.
Yeah.
I'm kind of relieved that we don't have to watch Deewana Mujhse Nahi.
No. The thing about दीवाना मुझसे नहीं है वो तो scene copy है एक पाकिस्तानी फिल्म जिसमें आरजू एंड फैसल थी. तो वो देखने के बाद मुझे बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस हो गया था कि पाकिस्तानी मूवीज भी इतनी बुरी नहीं है, देखी जाती हैं, कॉपी भी होती हैं.
किसी ज़माने में, maybe one time they used to.
Have I told you guys that like for the longest time the only Pakistani movie I ever saw was Hasina Atom Bomb? And at one point I was like, you know what? I think this is a hate crime against Pakistanis that I haven't seen any other movie.
Yeah.
And then I had to like go out and like watch other movies just to be like, हाँ मैंने भी देखी है. Like,
अच्छा, स्टोरी ऐसी है कि सेकंड ईयर एफएससी के एग्जाम्स के बाद में जो ब्रेक आया था, एंड इनफैक्ट दिस वाज लाइक माय फर्स्ट पेड गिग, वाज कि उस वक्त के एक एमएनए थे, उन्होंने एक प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया था, एजुकेशन विदाउट लिटरेसी. व्हाट ही वांटेड वाज कि उनके पंजाब के कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में जो महिलाएं हैं जिनकी मतलब बहुत छोटी उम्र में शादियां हो जाती हैं, 29 की उम्र में नानियां हो जाती हैं, उनको किसी तरह अट्रैक्ट करें towards these adult literacy programs. So he had said कि पहले हम इनको ना पंजाबी फिल्में दिखाएंगे और फिर बाद में फिर कोर्स सिलेबस बदल देंगे. So he said he paid me to watch के मतलब तुम पंजाबी फिल्में रिकमेंड करो और फिर बाद में इंग्लिश फिल्में रिकमेंड करो जिसको पंजाबी में डब करेंगे. अब मैं पठान हूँ, ठीक है, मेरा पूरा डीएनए जो था ना चेंज हो गया. मैंने 47 से लेकर दिस वाज आई थिंक 89 90 तक सारी मतलब पंजाबी फिल्में देख ली, ठीक है. और इसलिए ना कि जो सब ये साइज 0 का शुरू हुआ था ना, तो वो मेरे ऊपर कोई असर नहीं हुआ, बिकॉज मेरी आइडियल अंजुमन नीली थी ना, तो उसके बारे में जोक्स होते थे कि वो जिस खेत में नाच लेती है उसमें फिर कोई 30 साल तक कोई अनाज ही नहीं उगता. ये मतलब जो है नहीं अमृता आपकी तो मुझे आपकी भी एडल्ट लिटरेसी करवानी होगी भाई. There's so much brilliance out there.
Because Amrita, that's like you seeing, like I've only seen Deshdrohi and Jani Dushman and I know Pakistani cinema, that's like the equivalent of it.
No, ever since then, like I have seen other Pakistani
Yeah.
movies. I'm just saying like for the longest time, like that was the only
Yeah.
thing that I'd seen. And then I was just like, I have to watch other things.
But that was enough also, because मतलब Hasina Atom Bomb is awesome.
It was awesome.
And वो पता है पहले वो actually उसका तो बहुत बड़ा वो पश्तो रेफरेंस भी है ना, मतलब इसलिए that's हम पठानों का मतलब बिफोर द खान्स हमारा कंट्रीब्यूशन है टू वर्ल्ड सिनेमा. भाई वो BFI में भी आई थिंक उसको कहते हैं कि उसको रजिस्टर किया गया है ना.
What, Hasina Atom Bomb?
हाँ, तो उसका मतलब मैं क्या मैं बोलूँ, मैं मतलब हम लोग वो जोक्स होते थे ना कि आइडियल पर maybe you can cut this out, okay? वो कहते थे कि जो आइडियल जो मतलब जो पठान आइडियल फिगर के लिए जो स्टैटिस्टिक्स होते हैं वो कहते थे 36 24:36 and the same goes for the other leg also. तो वो तो इसलिए मतलब खैर मैं क्या बोलूं. अच्छा अभी देखो मतलब क्या हम लोग 2 मिनट के साइलेंस करेंगे अभी मतलब जो हमारे मतलब हाथ उठा के दुआ पढ़ेंगे है ना मतलब दिस हैज बीन लाइक सीरियसली. मैं अभी अमृता को बता रही थी कि हमारा रमजान चल रहा है तो जो पहले रोजा हुआ तो कहा था कि इसका जो सवाब होगा फिर वो इरफान खान को जाएगा. फिर अगले दिन रोजा रखा तो कहते इसका सवाब अभी ऋषि कपूर को जाएगा. तभी तो मैंने डर के आज रोजा रखा है, पता नहीं आज का सवाब किसको जाएगा. तो मैंने अरहाम से भी आज अपने बेटे से भी रोजा रखवाया ताकि इस घर से कुछ तो मतलब कुछ हमारी भी कुछ जमा पूंजी सेव हो, है ना. तो है.
Yeah. Wait, Anila, what do you want to like? Do you want to promote something? You mentioned your book, like कुछ तो तुम्हारा भी फायदा होना चाहिए ना, like
देखो मैं अभी मेरी बुक जो थी वो तो अभी मतलब क्या मैं बोलूं, मैंने ये बुक और मैंने अपनी पीएचडी क्यों की थी क्योंकि मेरे बचपन से मैं ये समझाना चाह रही थी. अच्छा देखो मेरा ये है कि मेरा रोजा है और एक मेरी बहुत आदत है कि मैं आई गो ऑफ द टेंशन. ओके सो आप मुझे रोकोगे और खींचोगे अपने तरफ. मैं अभी अपनी मतलब एक स्टोरी अपनी बताती हूँ कि इतनी मैंने पढ़ाई क्यों की और फिर उसके बाद में फिर आप लोग अपनी स्टोरीज बताएंगे. अच्छा सो ऐसा है कि मेरा जो 80s सारा गुजरा था राज कपूर की और पृथ्वीराज कपूर, ऋषि कपूर, सारे कपूर खानदान की फिल्में देखने में. तो एक दिन मैं आवारा देख रही थी और लाइक आई लिव्ड विद माय ग्रैंडफादर, मेरे दादा के साथ में, तो उनको मैं थोड़ा इंट्रोड्यूस करी थी अपने इंटरेस्ट की तरफ. तो मैंने कहा आप जरा आवारा देखें और मतलब यू नो इससे बेहतर और कुछ नहीं है. अब आवारा में पृथ्वीराज कपूर थे. मेरे दादा नमाज पढ़ रहे थे, उसमें से एकदम से उठ गए और कहा कि ये बंकर कैसे इसमें आ गया है. तो पता चला उस दिन कि मेरे दादा की बहुत पुरानी चोटें थी कि वो भी लॉ पढ़ रहे थे, पृथ्वीराज भी लॉ पढ़ रहे थे, लेकिन वो भाग गए थे. और मेरे दादा ने मतलब ना ऐसा गुड बॉय, उन्होंने अपना लॉ भी किया, आर्मी भी ज्वाइन की, सब कुछ किया. और वो कहते हैं कि इतने सालों बाद मेरी बेटी पोती जो है मतलब इस फैमिली को कह रही है कि ये दिस इज द फैमिली आई हैव टू एमुलेट एंड फॉलो. मतलब ये कैसे एक बंकर यहाँ तक पहुंच सकता है. तो खैर तो बहुत साल बाद अब हो गए हैं अब मैं मतलब दिल्ली की बहू हूं मैं. और ऐसा हुआ है कि मैं जहाँ पे रह रही थी वहाँ पे मतलब कुछ 2 घर बाद करिश्मा कपूर का भी ससुराल था. और फिर मेरा बेटा जो था वो एक्टिंग लेसन्स ले रहा है संजना कपूर से. तो मेरे दिल में एक बात आई कि वो कहते हैं कि जितनी दिखोती उतने आंख खलोती, मतलब लाइफ इज अ बिग इक्वलाइजर. ठीक है. तो मतलब मेरे दादा ने जो किया सो किया, बट एंड में तो हम सब उसी जगह में है ना, वही सांस हम लोग वी ब्रीदिंग इन राइट नाउ. तो पीएचडी ये था कि मेरे फैमिली बहुत घबराती थी कि वो कहते थे इसका क्या होगा, ये तो सिर्फ फिल्में देखती रहती है. तो मैंने उनको यही कहा था कि नहीं मतलब जितना कुछ मुझे मतलब ना फूको जो सिखा रहा था हमको अबाउट यू नो नेचर एंड नर्चर, वो तो आवारा ने मुझे सिखा दिया था कि एक शरीफ का बेटा शरीफ होगा और चोर चक्के के बेटे बदमाशी होंगे और बहुत कुछ और है. सो मैंने अपना मतलब थीसिस इसलिए लिखा कि ताकि मैं उसमें गोविंदा को डेडिकेट कर सकूं. मैं उनमें मतलब आई यूज्ड टू you know like my mother was very nervous कि ये भी मतलब जितेंद्रा की तरह मतलब मैं बूढ़ी हो जाऊंगी और सिलाई मशीन पे होंगी और ये फिर कोई 40 साल की उम्र में आके कहेगी कि मैंने बीए का इम्तिहान पास कर लिया है. तो बस ये सब कुछ ये किताबें जो लिखी हैं about you know Pakistan and its experiments with militarism, ये सब मैंने इसलिए लिखा है ताकि कल की जो पीढ़ियां हैं उसमें भी सब बच्चे बैठ के ना खूब फिल्में देखें.
I love that you're like imagining your mother as like the mother to Jitendra at age 40 and
वो तो सब ये कह रहे थे इसका क्या होगा मतलब यू नो ये तो ऐसे ही होगी लाइक सो आई थिंक मेरे एक्नॉलेजमेंट्स में ये लिखा हुआ है कि यू नो लेस देयर जो नाइटमेयर्स थे दैट आई वुड आल्सो बी लाइक यू नो इन वाइट शूज एंड वाइट पैंट एंड तब मैं बोलूंगी कि अब मेरी पीएचडी कंप्लीट हो गई है, नहीं जवानी में खत्म हो गई थी. ठीक है.
I just want everyone to like I think people might have missed the title of your book because after all that, what is the name of your book, Anila?
We are all revolutionaries and it's about क्या बोलूं.
What is the title? Just say the subtitle of your book.
क्या मैं भेज दूंगी. ठीक है अभी आगे अच्छी अच्छी बातें करते हैं.
I just want everyone to know that Anila like talks a big game, but she's a proper academic. She's very smart. And her book is actually really good, and I would like people to like buy a copy of it. It's properly worth it.
Yeah. See, Anila is an actual intellectual, so she's, humble about her accomplishments. We are the opposite. We have done nothing in life, but we make so much noise about it.
मेरे अरमान क्या थे कि मैं भागूंगी बॉम्बे पहुंचूंगी वहां पे मेरा बॉयफ्रेंड मुझे धोखा दे देगा है ना मैं कहीं पीछे वाली कोई उसमें बैकग्राउंड वाला सिंगर बनूंगी और फिर मेरा वो आगे पहुंचूंगी मेरा तो एवरी टाइम आई वुड कम टू इंडिया मेरी माय मदर लाइक डर डर के न्यूज़पेपर निकालती थी कि वहां पे ये ना लिखा हो कि एक नई डिस्कवरी पिंडी से आई हुई है लेकिन प्रॉब्लम ये हुआ कि उस बंदे ने मुझसे शादी कर ली तो मुझे पढ़ना पड़ा
Anila, did you also go to Wawa Studios or something like that before you went in? Like, this sounds like a very similar journey.
अमृता विल टेल यू मेरे घर में लोग ये कहते हैं कि मतलब खुदा रसूल का नाम है कि नहीं मतलब क्या होगा कोई छोटा सा उसने मंदिर बनाया है कि या कि कोई मतलब कुरान का कोई उस तरह कुछ होगा तो मेरे घर में ना जहाँ पे वो अंदाज अपना अपना डायलॉग्स का एक पोस्टर लगा हुआ है तो मेरे घर में जब कोई मेहमान आते हैं तो पहले वहां पे दुआ पढ़ते हैं सफर पे जाते हैं तो उसको देखते हैं तो नहीं अंदाज अपना अपना इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट लाइक in fact like kabhi now that we have to raise my boy in my ways तो उसका मतलब अपने बिस्मिल्लाह शोले से किया था because I keep on saying कि इस दिन पे हमारा दीन कंप्लीट हो गया है अभी अरहान को हम लोग नए टेस्टामेंट्स दिखा रहे हैं नई मूवीज दिखा रहे हैं but it's strange that शोले has aged very well that he can watch it and अभी जो I think ऋषि कपूर की कुछ में क्या दिखाई थी उसको मैं अमृता what was it that he had suggested ये वादा रहा तो उसके उसमें 5 मिनट लेके
एक मिनट I didn't suggest ये वादा रहा Anila suggested it by herself
नहीं, not me नहीं ये वादा रहा came in one of the emails that we were exchanging हाँ so मैं तो खैर like मैंने कहा कि वो लगाई मैंने तो वो बेटा मेरा देख रहे हैं वो 2 मिनट में कह रहे कि इसका स्टोरी लाइन में तो बहुत नहीं 11 ओके बिकॉज़ स्टोरी लाइन में बड़े एरर्स लिख रहे हैं मुझे देखा क्या मतलब है नहीं ये मतलब इज दिस ऑल इज गोइंग टू डू स्टॉकर ओके हां तो फिर वो खैर बहुत जल्दी 10 मिनट में रुक गई थी बट यस बट या ये है अच्छा सुबह
I was telling Anila that basically 11-year-olds today are not the 11-year-olds that we used to be because we were dumb. We used to watch everything and then we'd be like, ha. Yeah. And then we grew up and then all of a sudden we were like, wait, what? What were we watching?
Even yesterday we were watching Never Have I Ever, that new Mindy show on Netflix. Yeah. And like Sophia was just like walking around and things like that. And in my mind I was like, should I tell her to go to her room and play there so we can watch this alone? Or is the content not appropriate? Because it's like a 14-year-old girl, so she's 7. So she will like aankhein screen pe jati hai na, like, oh, kaun ladki hai, like she looks like me, and plus she doesn't see that many brown girls being the lead on TV speaking English and all that. So, but then you're like wondering, like, how did our parents just get away with, like, every Bollywood movie used to have a rape scene and we saw all of them. Like, how does that work? Why were we never sent to our rooms?
मतलब बाकी वो जो साड़ियाँ खींचती रहती थी and all my aunts would say is के
yeah
और they would say कि ये मतलब because my खाला हमसे बोलती थी कि ये शिरीन की बेटियां क्यों आ जाती हैं यहाँ पे इसको मतलब because ओरिजिनल बिंज वाचिंग तो वो था राइट कि आप किसी से वीसीआर लाते थे और फिर सारी रात वो मूवीज चलती थी है ना और the interesting thing is because I grew up in Pindi and Karachi was हमारा abroad right so Karachi had VCRs and films so I do remember कि when we speak about oral cultures तो ये था कि गर्मियों की छुट्टियों में सारी मूवीज देख के हिफ्स कर लेती थी फिर वापस पिंडी आके फिर मैं सारा वो रिक्रिएट करती थी फिर उनके लिए कजन्स के लिए तो नहीं तो ये था एंड आई रिमेंबर कि दैट वाज द टाइम जब रेड रोज आई थी फिर जब शक्ति आई थी तो आल्सो काइंड ऑफ दिस सब मूवीज ये होता है अच्छा पहले फिर लोग प्रेग्नेंट हो जाते हैं फिर उनको शादियां करने पड़ती हैं तो मुझे
Oh, that used to be a thing. Like, I used to be so Sayana that if I see a female character like throw up or having a vomit, and I used to just shout on the screen, "Oh, she's pregnant!" And I did not know what pregnancy means, but I knew that, oh, she's pregnant.
नहीं मेरी क्रोनोलॉजी बहुत गलत थी. मेरी क्रोनोलॉजी ये थी कि फर्स्ट आप देखते फिर आपकी शादी होती है, राइट? सो मेरे तो पता नहीं बहुत सारे मतलब मेरे ख्याल में शादियों को मुझे लेके जाना छोड़ दिया था लोगों ने, पता है.
It's interesting though that Red Rose appears on your like timeline of watching cinema.
नहीं.
What is Red Rose? I don't know that reference. What is Red Rose?
I think it's a Rajesh Khanna movie, right?
पता है वो सारी मूवीज हमने टुकड़ों में देखी थी बिकॉज़ वो फॉरवर्ड कर लेते थे. एंड तो अब मुझे बाकी वापस जाके देखना होगा. अच्छा ये थी स्टोरी. Because यही था कि like I do remember like being in Karachi watching these movies and my grandfather they would watch it in the afternoon because जब मेरे नाना सो रहे होते थे and वो ये कहते थे कि जहाँ कर्नल साहब ने सीढ़ी पे कदम रखी वहाँ हेलन के ठुमके शुरू हो गए. तो yes ये सारा मतलब फिर I have had a very strange upbringing, पता है.
So Red Rose is basically Rajesh Khanna as a serial killer, and it's a sort of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of a situation. But it's a remake of a Tamil film with Kamal Hassan, and that is actually I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember the Tamil version was actually a lot less creepy, maybe because Kamal was like half the age of Rajesh Khanna when Rajesh Khanna made this film. So anyway.
नहीं but वो जो उसका जो पूनम धिलन का वो जो लाल गुलाब वाला एक रुमाल जो टकिन था वहाँ पे पेटीकोट में, that was like really disturbing. But खैर, but such a childhood memories यार. लोगों के कितनी पीजी मेमोरीज होती है बचपन की. मेरे यही है
Wow.
आप लोग के चाचा नेहरू का गुलाब, ये हमारे तो ये रेफरेंसेस थे, पता है.
राजेश खन्ना का रेड रोज.
बट वो काफी इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी था उसने, पता है. वो ये होता है वो अपनी आई डोंट नो आई एम स्पॉइलर अलर्ट, बट वो अपनी बीवियों को फिर मार लेता था, फिर उनकी कब्रों के ऊपर में एक गुलाब का वो पौधा उगाता था. फिर सुबह पे वो माली आता था कि आज फलानी वाली बीवी के उससे हमने ये गुलाब तोड़ के लाए हैं. It was really strange. Right?
Oh, he was killing his wives. That's what the story.
Yeah, he was killing his wives and then he would plant. उसका कुछ यही था कि उसका I think कुछ child molestation का कोई केस हुआ था शायद, इसलिए वो it was like really put you off. उसका काफी
Yeah, I'm looking at the posters on IMDb. I mean, for 1980s, these were probably quite like this is like Basic Instincts of that time, I imagine, no?
देखो अब कराची में ऐसा था कि जो है वैसा है, as it is where it is basis पे था. ठीक है, जो फिल्में हैं वो आप रेंट करोगे वो आप देखोगे. कुछ शुरू में तो मुझे समझ नहीं आती थी कि हर अमिताभ बच्चन की मूवी में वो मर जाता था. तो इसलिए जब अपने कजन्स को सुनाती थी कहते नहीं इसकी फिल्म कहानियां नहीं सुनाओ, ये फिर मर जाएगा, है ना. तो मुझे किसी और को बताओ. हमारी क्या क्या मूवीज थी उस वक्त में. There was a love story था, there was एहसास. They were like really strange.
Sound? There's a sound in the background of like.
No, this is me. This is me. Yeah, I should stop that. This is me. I start tapping my fingers.
Achha, then like time is a little short today, so like shall we talk about Irrfan and Rishi?
Yeah, this was supposed to be our sober, like pensive episode, like like afsos karne wala episode hamara, like. So the initial idea was we were gonna get Anila on to talk about like a ridiculous movie we were gonna make fun of, right? Or did we seriously think that was a good movie? I'm not.
No.
Right. Okay.
नहीं अब ऐसा करूंगी कि because now you've said कि मैं वो academic on hire हूँ, so I will begin with पहले तो मैं ये बताऊंगी कि आपको पता है कि मतलब ऋषि कपूर का कितना इन्फ्लुएंस है हम पे. कि अभी ये यहाँ पे इंडिया में ना पूरा वो चांदनी का जो रोहित का वो नहीं था सीन के सारे वो फूल बरसाए जाते हैं, वो रिक्रिएट हो रहा है आज, पता है यहाँ पे. अमृता विल fill you in on that. तो वो पूरे ऑल ओवर इंडिया पता है सारा फ्लाई पास्ट हो रहा है और हम फूल फेंक के जाएंगे जहाँ पे कोविड-19 के जो मरीज हैं. ये सारा वही से इंस्पायर्ड था. मैं जान गई थी. देखिए मेरा ये था कि आई वाज वेरी इंटरेस्टेड इन कि there used to be this other जो थे क्या था वो मोस्ट प्रेग्नेंट फिल्म एवर, मोस्ट खानदानी फिल्म एवर, वो विश्वा का जो
Pretentious
होता था।
reviews.
Oh,
Yeah,
हाँ
pretentious.
हाँ हाँ,
pretentious
प्रिटेंशियस
reviews. Yeah.
रिव्यूज। तो मेरा था कि मैं ऋषि कपूर का था ना मोस्ट मुस्लिम एवर, ठीक है। बिकॉज अगर आपने इंडिया के मतलब सेलुलॉइड हिस्ट्री या इंडियन सोसाइटी में अगर आपने मुस्लिम प्रोटैगनिस्ट का अगर आपने क्रोनोलॉजी एंड प्रोजेक्ट्री देखनी है तो वो ऋषि कपूर के थ्रू देखेंगे। बिकॉज ऋषि कपूर फॉर मी वाज द ओरिजिनल गली बॉय, राइट। अकबर जो इलाहाबादी थे, एक वो भी तो गली बॉय था, डॉक्टर के ऊपर दिल हार गया था, ठीक है। तो एक वो आपके परसेप्शंस था। फिर वो कैसे रऊफ लाला और मुराद अली खान पे वो कारवान रुका है ना। बिकॉज अभी जैसे फॉर इंस्टेंस अब रऊफ लाला का जो था कि दिस वाज, अगर अकबर पटरी से उतर जाता तो फिर वो रऊफ लाला ही बनता, राइट। तो
Yeah.
मतलब अगर आप अग्निपथ में देखेंगे कि जो आपकी अभी स्टीरियोटाइप्स हैं अबाउट द मुस्लिम अदर, वो सारा करा था ना, वो लड़कियां बेच रहा था। कितना उन्होंने ट्राई किया था टू मेक हिम एज विशियस एज पॉसिबल, कि वो बकरियों का मरोड़ रहा है, लड़कियों उनको बेच रहा है। मतलब वो टू फेस्ड है कि वो ऋतिक रोशन को उसने एक जबान दी है, बेटे को दूसरी जबान दे रहा है, राइट। In between, of course, we've had the Colonel Sahab as good Muslim, जो फना में थे कि वो विस्की शाम को पियेंगे, है ना। फिर वो थे वो जो बेग साहब का कैरेक्टर था दिल्ली 6 में, कि वो महबूब की शादी पे शामियाने लगाएंगे, है ना। वो वाला एक लैंग्वेज मुस्लिम लैंग्वेज जो है वो वहाँ पे थी। फिर मैं सोच रही थी कि वो जो मुसलमानों के साथ हो जाता है ना कि आप देखते हैं एक को बुर्के में बट शादी किसी और से हो जाती है, वो था ना। वो कौन सी मूवी थी जो ही प्लेस अली असगर, नहीं, ही प्लेस सलीम अहमद सलीम इन ये इश्क नहीं आसान, राइट। Then what else did we have? We had the D-Day का दाऊद इब्राहिम को जो धोखा दे देता है, वो वाला मुसलमान है हमारे पास। फिर like if I would were to think कि अकबर की कहानी कहाँ पे एंड होगी, वो फिर मेरे ख्याल में जो मुल्क का मुराद अली खान है उस पे एंड होगी। मुझे लगता है कि अकबर इलाहाबादी भी आखिर में मतलब इस्लाम तो कर लेता है, ठीक है, थोड़ी थोड़ी दाढ़ी ग्रो कर ली थी, नहीं तो उसे को वापस पर्दे में डाल देगा। हाँ, तो
Wow.
I don't know, मतलब आई थिंक कि मतलब आई फील कि वो जो अग्निपथ में बहुत सारी चीजें मुझे हर्ट करी थी, पर जो सबसे जो बात हर्ट करी थी वो जो अली असगर ने जो कवाली की थी ना। मतलब आप ऋषि कपूर who is the ace when it comes to कवाल्स, आप उनके सामने में इतनी घटिया कवाली करोगे। मुझे तो लग रहा था कि वो जो हाथ में वो खंजर है वो लेगा और दूस देगा उसके अंदर में। अच्छा, so this is my little piece.
I think for me, like, I had a lot of problems with Agnipath as a film, like the new one, but and you're right, like it was a total like inversion of Rishi's various roles that he had played over the past years, and also like his role as Akbar. Like it was definitely an inversion of Akbar in that film, but I think what took me through that film and made it bearable for me was just the joy of watching Rishi stretch his muscles. Because he'd never done anything like that before, and he's spoken before about like how difficult it was for him to play a character like that, and he didn't think the audience would accept somebody like that either. But just watching Rishi Kapoor do something that was so antithetical to everything that he had done before, and just, I mean, Amitabh Bachchan does this all the time. Like he's tried to like, sort of screw around with his legacy a little bit and just try and experiment. But Rishi doesn't get the same kind of chances that Amitabh Bachchan does. So just watching him go to town on the one opportunity that he got in the middle of all that, I think that for me was what made that entire thing bearable.
Yeah, he was apprehensive about portraying that negative role. Definitely, he's given many interviews about that, when the script came to him and such. And then, like, the comparison between the older Agnipath and the new one, for me, obviously, Hrithik gets to like do his flaring nostrils and shake his face a lot, and then to contrast it with somebody who can play it straight up villainy, with such hyper melodrama, but none of the overacting, is just such a contrast to see, him bringing the movie together rather than Vijay Chauhan. which is that was the thing that made Agnipath, the 2012 movie, work for me.
And also between like Sanjay Dutt, who's supposed to be like the most terrifying villain, and Rishi, like Rishi scared the shit out of me as compared to like Sanjay Dutt. Like Sanjay was a caricature. Like he made me laugh more than he made me afraid. But Rishi, like I was scared. Like if I saw Ralph Lala in the dark in an alley somewhere, I turn around and run because that dude scares the shit out of me.
Yeah,
it's interesting because I was also on the Risk Test podcast. We were talking about Muslim representation in Hindi cinema, and it's funny what Anila's bringing up because I never really saw as a boy growing up Rishi Kapoor to be some kind of Muslim character. I watched Amar Akbar Anthony so many times, but because he was never the main character, it never left such an imprint like Amitabh Schooley did for me. And
but you see, Musliman to Hanuman Khan ही होता है ना, तो वो तो हमेशा supporting character ही होगा, तो इसलिए.
I agree with. I think that's why because it did feel almost like token representation, and at that time I think we were just happy with whatever there was, like that. There's always that, like growing up in Belgium, you would see like on British TV one Asian family in a game show, and we would call everybody, our TV dekho, there's like a Asian family on TV, so you would just be happy with what you had. And at least there was, Akbar was positive in a way, right? There were less like overt negative portrayals, but that changed throughout the time, and I think Agnipath already is in that era of just Muslims being evil on screen, and then that kind of being a part of it, where Mulk is maybe flipping that narrative very actively, right? I think that's what the filmmakers and the performers wanted to do. They're speaking about something very specific, whereas I think he was just part of the three, and he wasn't the main third Musalman, right? He was just like the side character. So I mean, it's an interesting. It's been a big loss this whole week for just cinema, Hindi cinema, and surprisingly also like Western cinema. I'm seeing a lot of like eulogies and pieces about Irrfan Khan, and I think I underestimated the impact he also had on like white critics, because he was making a lot of movie for white critics, but he wasn't, maybe breaking through to, the whole audience the way Priyanka Chopra is trying to do. But it's been weird for me
or maybe that's our perception of what Irrfan Khan stood for us. Maybe, I don't know, for people who avidly watch world cinema, they probably recognize him more. Like for us, Irrfan represents, Life in a Metro or Pan Singh Tomar and Namesake and all of that. And for them, it's more than that. I don't know, because I don't belong to that subset of, cinema audience.
देखिए इरफान खान को तो हम जैसे शायद मैं बनेगी अपनी बात में एज द स्केरी डैड के वक्त जानते हैं, राइट? पर जहाँ पे इरफान खान के जो स्टोरी है, वहाँ से मुझे ना एक नुसरत फतेह अली खान की एक स्टोरी याद आती है कि वो कहते हैं कि वो फैसलाबाद से थे, तो कहते हैं कि फैसलाबाद इज लाइक आवर मैनचेस्टर, राइट? वहाँ पे सारा कपड़ा वहाँ बनता है. कहते हैं मैं उस कपड़े की तरह हूँ कि जब उस पर मेड इन टोक्यो का ठप्पा लग जाता है ना, फिर आप लोग खरीदते हैं. तो इरफान खान का भी यही था कि वो वॉरियर में आया, फिर बाकी सब लोगों को भी पहचान में आ गए, है ना? फिर अब लोगों को ये भी याद आ रहा है कि नहीं वो दृष्टि में भी थे डिम्पल कपाडिया के साथ में, तो हाँ.
But it's for me, what I was bringing back with the Irrfan Khan and the Rishi Kapoor thing, it's been interesting to find a balance in your grief in a way, because it's been like both of them have, it's one day after the other, and it's also been, there's so much grief online, like people really feel these deaths, and then kind of finding your own way where you feel about these two characters or these two people, and they're so different in a way. I don't know, like I think we can maybe talk about it a bit on the podcast, what it like personally means for us. But like I know like Richie, like especially because he's also like, so many people have been doing like, like telling stories about Rishi Kapoor, and they all seem to end up when Rishi Kapoor was screaming at me or Rishi Kapoor was mad at me, which seems to be like a lot about what Rishi Kapoor and drinking. That those are the three things that you seem to hear a lot about. And like, not to take away from, like obviously a person has died, but I personally was never really that attached to Rishi Kapoor as an actor because growing up, he wasn't the alpha. He was like the token character, the side character, the one that needs saving to a lot of degrees. And then he had the whole sweater Chandni period where growing up as a boy, those were not the movies I was necessarily interested in. And then when
तुम्हारी परवरिश अच्छी नहीं हुई भाई.
I'll put you next in a Skype call with my mom, Okay, you guys can hash it out. And then when the Dhoni Char thing happened, his toxic persona was also so well known at that time. So I had a bit of trouble kind of connecting with Rishi in any of my life stages.
I think it's not like there's a lot of conversation about like whether we should remember the fact that Rishi was basically an angry drunk and a horrible human being in his private life. बीवी को मारता था, बेटे से खास, closeness नहीं थी, like all that kind of stuff. Lekin, I think like for me, like that generation of stars, they were like they weren't in our lives the way that stars today are. Like, Rishi Kapoor was never going to pop over to your house and like sit there for 2 hours and like eat chai and snacks. Like
he was like the Kapoor's son, he's born with that privilege.
And he's been a star since he was 18 years old. So for me, like like Rishi the person and Rishi the star are two very separate people in my head. So for me, like, if you ask me, like, do you like Rishi as a human being? Obviously not. Like, I don't know who could. Like, maybe the people who knew him in real life can somehow make it work. There are plenty of terrible people in the world who still have friends and family who love them very much. So maybe he was one of those people. But for me, like, my relationship is like the Rishi that I'm mourning right now is the Rishi who was the star of my childhood. And that relationship is not so much about his movies, but about the music. Because when I think about Rishi, it's the music that really gets me. Like, I still sing his songs, like when I'm just, like my subconscious mind starts playing all these songs. I still sing like Om Shanti Om. I still sing Ek Hasina Thi. I still think of the songs from Chandni. I still have all these songs on my phone. I listen to them on a daily basis. Like his soundtrack from Bobby onwards, it sort of informed my childhood. So for me, like that's a very integral piece of like what I experienced as a child who fell in love with Hindi film.
Yeah, I also sing Ek Hasina Thi, but I sing the Himesh Reshamia version.
तुम्हारी परवरिश अच्छी नहीं हुई.
I have a feeling Joy and I are going to say that a lot.
I think you found your phrase for the next 57 episodes now.
What about you?
This episode is going to be in a way academic of sorts, because we are chronicling all of their careers, but these two are almost like academic institutions in themselves in on the face of all that is in the name of Indian cinema. But their journey throughout all these years are just so monumental that we cannot help sound academic in a way. And I didn't think I don't know, I'm still processing their loss in a way, and I didn't expect to be affected because I believe that I'm quite cynical and I'm in my 30s, late 30s now, and I thought that I was cynical, but I don't know why I still feel like what the fuck is happening, these two are gone. And I do feel that what I'm mourning is to be not able to see more of Irrfan and Rishi, who in their stage of this career were, in a way, I thought that they were just getting started. They were far from their peak, and that has been snatched from me. That that hurts me in a way. And yeah, the last couple of movies that they have done were so good. And that's the thing that affects me. I don't know if I am in any way personally attached to Rishi Kapoor as a person, because I've met him once in a press conference, and but by then it was quite infamous about what his kind of repertoire with the press was, and we took it on the chin, like, oh yeah, Rishi Kapoor, he's just going to be an ass. But yeah, that was the conversation then. And but does it stop me from appreciating his work? No.
I mean,
I also want to point out that Sujoy is an absolute legend who went up to Rishi Kapoor at this press conference and said his favorite movie was Ajuba.
Bless you for that. Bless you for that.
that's what I was going to say. From all four of us, Sujoy is the only one that has been publicly scorned in front of people by Rishi Kapoor. So he has a more personal connection than any of us.
But Neetu and Ranveer were there, and they really appreciated the question. They were really smiling. This was at the Besharam press conference in London, and I said, would you consider remaking Ajuba for today's audience? And he was like, are you really serious? You think Ajuba is a good movie? And I was like,
फिल्म का नाम बेशरम सुजॉय के क्वेश्चन के लिए रखा था.
अच्छा.
वाह 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 वाह.
देखिए, मेरे लिए क्या है ऋषि कपूर का, उन्होंने कहीं पे कहा था ना कि लव इज हिज मिशन इन लाइफ, राइट? एंड अगर आप साउथ एशियन पोइट्री भी देखेंगे तो जो महबूब होता है ना, वो काफी क्रूअल होता है. ठीक है, उसमें अदावत होती है, वो आपको मर के करीब ले आता है. ठीक है, तो इसलिए मेरे कोई कंप्लेंट्स नहीं है, क्योंकि ये उनका ब्रांड था और हमने मतलब खुली आंखों से वी एंटर्ड इनटू दैट, राइट? ठीक. नेक्स्ट.
So, Anila, what are the movies that stand out for you for Rishi Kapoor, except from beside the Muslimness of it?
नहीं, मेरे लिए चांदनी होगी for many reasons, because चांदनी was 1989, and अगर आपने मेरी तरह पाकिस्तान में आमरियत कहते हैं ना कि जो टिरनी के जो 11 साल थे of martial law, अगर उससे गुजरे और फिर एकदम से 89 में I'm a 15-year-old, ये मूवी आती है, बेनज़ीर आती है, चांदनी है, श्रीदेवी है, तो एक ऐसा था कि मुझे हमेशा से फीलिंग होती थी कि इतने साल मेरा सर किसी ने पानी में अंदर इमर्स कर दिया है, और आई एम जस्ट कम आउट एंड आई कैन ब्रीथ इन फ्रेश एयर. तो मेरे ख्याल में इसलिए मैं काफ़ी इमोशनल हो जाती हूँ मैं उस मूवी के लिए एंड ऋषि कपूर के लिए. एंड हाँ, तो ये है मेरे लिए, मतलब उसके तो मैंने डायलॉग्स रट लिए थे, है ना, मतलब. एंड वो जो खासकर जब वो क्योंकि मेरे लिए आप समझो कि मेरे लिए बहुत मुश्किल होता है कि रोहित या कोई भी फिल्म के कैरेक्टर और एक्टर को सेपरेट करना. तो मेरे लिए ऐसा था कि अगर ऋषि कपूर किसी से प्यार करता है, और वो जब श्रीदेवी चांदनी को अपने घर में लाता है एंड वो कमरा एंटर करती है और हर जगह उसकी तस्वीरें लगी होती है, मेरे लिए प्यार ये था, मेरे लिए काफी था. कहने का हाँ सेम टू सेम मुझे चाहिए, है ना. और उस वक्त तो इतना महंगा था वो, आजकल के वक्तों की तरह तो नहीं है कि आप मोबाइल में 10 तस्वीरें खींच लेंगे. वो तस्वीरें खींचना, फिर लेके जाना, उसको डेवलप करना, उनमें से एक अच्छा शॉट लाना कितना महंगा होता है. तो मैंने कहा रियल लव इज दिस भाई, मतलब पूरी की पूरी रील उसने पोर्ट्रेट्स पे लगा दी उसने.
Yeah, I think with Chandni also, the music really helped, Shivhari's music in that, and especially Tere Mere Hoto Pe. That is the indelible memory of Chandni for me, with the sweaters and Swiss Alps and Sridevi in yellow sari.
अच्छा, तो अमृता के साथ उस दिन जोक करी थी ना कि यहाँ पे ना दिल्ली का AQI काफी अच्छा हो गया है, तो सब लोग कहते हैं स्विट्जरलैंड हो गया है ना. मुझे इतना डर था कि सब लोग अपने अपने बैल्कनी में जाएंगे. वो संडे को जब थाली बजाने के लिए कहा था, मुझे लग रहा था सब निकली साड़ियाँ पहन के यहाँ पे चांदनी चांदनी होगा. हाँ.
Anila, not to make you the spokesperson for Pakistan, but since you're talking about what it felt like to watch Chandni in Pakistan, what was it like when Hina came out?
हिना का ये था कि मुझे पता चला कि भाई मतलब हम लोग खामखा ऐसे वीजा के लिए लाइन में लगे रहते हैं लोग, तो मतलब वहां पे तुम लोग वो दरिया देखो और जाओ. इसलिए इम्पोर्टेंट था कि ऑफ कोर्स ज़ेबा बख्तियार थी वो, मतलब देखो ना, याया बख्तियार जो उनके फादर थे, वो मतलब हमारे अटॉर्नी जनरल रह चुके हैं, एंड जुल्फ़िकार भुट्टो के साथ में थे। ज़ेबा की जो बड़ी बहन थी वो काफ़ी अच्छी लॉयर थी, लेकिन हीरोइन तो सारा नाम तो ज़ेबा को मिला। आई थिंक ग्रोइंग अप, मैं उस वक्त स्कूल में थी, तो मैंने कहा कि पता नहीं ये क्या कर रहे हैं, इतना पढ़ ले रहे हैं। तो इट वाज दिस, बट आई थिंक आई लाइक्ड इट बिकॉज उसमें काफ़ी कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री वो था, जो इम्प्रेशन जो था पाकिस्तान के लिए था। आई थिंक फॉर दैट आई विल फॉरएवर बी ग्रेटफुल कि वो जो होता है ना कि बाद में आपको एक ऑकवर्डनेस होती है एक पाकिस्तानी होते हुए सिनेमा में बैठे हुए, वो नहीं था। एंड तो या आई गेस इट्स जस्ट दैट उसमें अगेन आई एम सेइंग कि आई कम फ्रॉम अ कल्चर, जो ओरल कल्चर है, जो हर चीज़ हिफ्स कर लेते हैं। तो उसमें वो जो वो आती है, वो मटके पे उसको रिकग्नाइज करना होता है कि कौन सा मटका उसने बनाया है, तो वो टंग टंग अपनी उंगलियों से एक पे करती कहती नहीं ये भी नहीं है, ये भी नहीं है, तो वो बार बार वो रिक्रिएट करना। फिर उस वक्त पे मैं क्वेटा में थी जब ये मूवी आई थी, तो फैमिली में शादियां थी, तो हर शादी पे ये वो जो साथ नाल जाना वाला जो गाना था वो प्ले होना। फिर एक वक्त मैंने एक प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया था कि अबाउट पाकिस्तान इंडिया की जो डुअलिज्म है, तो उसमें आई थिंक देयर वाज एक तस्वीर थी जिसमें नूरजहान और दिलीप कुमार हैं, फिर एक तस्वीर भी थी जो हिना थी, मतलब इट वाज ऑल आइकॉनिक डुओस था। हाँ, आई थिंक वो मेरा एक प्रोजेक्ट था, तो उसमें ये आया था। तो हाँ, ये
what I seem to remember during that time, there was like the happiness that like on the one, like I think in Pakistan it's an uncomfortable relationship with cinema as a whole. Like you kind of say it's a culture similar to ours, but there's also this feeling of ke like filmein nahi dekhni chahiye, like culture kharab ho jayega. So on the one hand I think there was this idea, one of ours is going there, and like RK Cinema, and like the biggest banner at that time, it was only them and Yashraj at that time, right?
नहीं, उनसे पहले मोहम्मद अली और ज़ेबा पे तो गए थे ना, तो उनको तो बड़ा जलील करके वापस भेजा था। तो इफ यू रिमेंबर दैट, मनोज कुमार की फिल्मों में मोहम्मद अली और ज़ेबा गए थे।
Oh, which one was that?
द नेम विल कम टू मी, बट उसमें दादा मोनी भी हैं, और उसमें वो पूरा दे प्ले द द रियली गरीब भाई, एंड उसमें दादा मोनी होता है, तो जो हार्ट अटैक होता है, फिर एवरी टाइम एंड दे प्ले दिस
क्लर्क।
हाँ, क्लर्क। इसमें तो हमारे यार, मतलब हमारे जो आइकॉनिक डुओ जो है मोहम्मद अली ज़ेबा, वो थे उसमें। ऐसा नहीं है, बॉर्डर पहले भी पार हुआ था, लेकिन ये इस दफा मैं थोड़ा सा इज्जत दी है इसमें।
I think it was just that like launch of a heroine, right? Like it was such a big thing back in those days, right? Like Subhash Ghai launching a heroine, or being a Yashraj heroine, it used to be a big thing. And Zeba being it, I remember that there was like this sense of pride, but there was also like what happens is like, oh, ye to India ke ho gaye, like, oh, iska character hi kharab hai. So there was kind of like those two things together. I mean, I think I was a bit younger, so I couldn't really fully comprehend, but it seems all a very confusing time of how Pakistanis were feeling towards Zeba at that time.
Anyway,
I think for me, like, Hina was monumental in like a couple of ways. It was, Raj Kapoor died throughout just after beginning the movie, and then it was made by Ranbir Kapoor and all of that, and it was the first time we got to see, like, for me it was the first time I got to see Pakistan is like this, on TV, on in cinema. And when it was released, like, I grew up in a very small town in Assam, and I had never seen something as hyped like that. We used to have like giant posters painted on a cloth and hung up on outside the cinema on single screen, right? And Hina was the first movie to do that. And so I remember this giant poster of Zeba Bakhtiar and Rishi Kapoor on this poster of Hina. And the music of this movie was out of this world. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, huh?
Shall we move on to Irrfan a little bit? Because I'm just being conscious of the time too.
I have to say, however, that like I didn't expect to feel this bad about Irrfan passing. Like I
Yeah.
didn't like the grief just came out of nowhere. Like I didn't know that I would feel this terrible about him passing off.
अमृता ये हमारे बुढ़ापे का प्यार है ना मतलब हमारा चक्कर क्या होता है कि इरफान में हमारी जो होप होती है ना कि जैसे कि यू नो इस एज में भी लाइक यू नो हमारा टाइम आएगा राइट एंड व्हेन इरफान खान जब गए हैं तो फिर वो एक चैप्टर रुक गया है आई गेस इट्स दैट
Yeah.
वी आर मोर्निंग दैट
All the hopes के lunch box, tiffin box कहीं और चला जाएगा. That kind of hope. Is that what you're meaning?
नहीं मतलब the thing is कि you know with Rishi Kapoor and all they were as they said into the manner born मतलब seriously like शरीफ का बेटा तो शरीफ होगा और कपूर का बेटा तो मतलब यही फिल्मों में ही आएगा ना and I hope फिल्मों में आए डॉक्टर ना बने because थोड़ा वो तो I know I'm again going back to चांदनी मुझे चांदनी क्यों पसंद थी क्योंकि ऋषि कपूर ने हमको फतवा दे दिया था कि कोयनाक शराब नहीं होती तो ठीक है तो मौलाना ऋषि कपूर ने जो वो दिया था उसको हमने बांध दिया था तो यस आई गेस दैट्स अनदर रीजन व्हाई कि मेरे मतलब बहुत मेरा इस्लाम मेरे लिए बड़ा क्लियर हो गया था अच्छा या विद इरफान खान का मेरे ख्याल में यही है ना कि there has been such a languid pace to him कि मैं उसके एड्स देख रही थी कि उसके एड्स में भी कितना एक ठहराव था ठीक है और इरफान खान हमको I'm just trying you know because I'm forgetting the Falcon वाला नहीं था वो जो बुक जो आई थी अभी this 80-year-old जमील साहब जो थे हमारे पाकिस्तानी they had published him he had become an author at the age of 80 Again, I'm sorry, अब मेरा रोजा लग रहा है मेरी मेमोरी गई तो इरफान खान भी उस तरह के थे कि उनका भी मतलब it took time but to know कि you know जितना भी लगेगा आपका काम सराहा जाएगा और जब मेरे ख्याल में ये है अमृता जो हमको हिट कर रहा है
Yeah, Nasir actually wrote about it, you know. He said, and it's actually, he said something like really profound, I think. And it's not everybody who gets, you know, an obituary written by Nasiruddin Shah himself. And he said he first met Irfan when he was in rehearsal for some film with Ratna Pathak Shah. And, you know, like, Nasir remembers like, you know, just meeting him and there's something about his eyes that made him, the same as what Anila was saying, made him like stop and like remember who this person is because he thought that, you know, ye banda kuch kaam ka hai. And then he said ki the thing that he remembers most about Irfan is that he spent the time before he became a star, like he spent that time practicing and preparing to be the actor that he knew he could be because he knew that it was important to be ready when the call came. Mm-hmm. And he spent years making all these, you know, these little TV shows and tiny films that nobody saw and like little plays that nobody saw. And he spent all those years just practicing his craft and honing it and getting better project by project. So that finally when he got that one chance, he just blew everybody out of the water. And I just feel like that's what it was like for, like a lot of people talk about, I mean, we were talking about The Warrior, but honestly, I think for international cinema, it was The Namesake. It was that movie that like really brought people to like, oh my God, this guy is an amazing actor.
For me, Namesake is the one that also kind of hit me the most, that I still think of the most fondly. I think obviously because clearly that whole storyline, the immigration storyline, is very close to how I grew up. But it was funny because like everybody was doing kind of these immemorial posts, and there was one by Carl Penn. And I had totally forgotten that Carl Penn was in The Namesake because Tabu and Irfan's shadow looms so largely over that movie that I actually totally forgot that, you know, Gogol is actually Carl Penn's character. So, Anila, was it Jameel Ahmed, the Wandering Falcon? Is that
yes,
the... Right.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
I Googled it quickly because otherwise it just keeps bothering you. Like, why couldn't I figure it?
Exactly. मेरी और मेरी बहन की मतलब बहुत महाभारत लेवल की लड़ाइयाँ होती थी, बट हमारी एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी कि अगर 3 महीने भी बात नहीं की और अगर रात के 12 बजे फोन आ जाए कि अनीता राज कौन थी और अमृता सिंह कौन थी तो बता दूंगी. मैं सो ना पाती.
Yeah. So one thing I want to pick up on what you were saying, Amrita, about honing this craft, but there was something about Irfan that he also kind of caught the curve and caught the wave at the right time and the right opportunities, because you have enough actors like that. Even if you think about the movie that we were looking forward to, Kamyab, which is now on Netflix, I think. And
Sanjay Mitra.
yeah, Sanjay Mishra is immediately one of those actors I would think about, right? Like, he's also been honing his craft for so long, waiting for the right
Vijay
opportunity.
Raj,
Yeah, and he's had those opportunities even, right? Like with Aankho Dekhi, now with Kamyab. But there was something about, or even like Nawaz, if you would think, right? That would be his counterpart, right? Irfan and Nawaz, those two together. But I think something about Irfan, like maybe it was kind of like a grace or an elegance that he has, a bit of being refined.
Nahi, I'll tell you what it is.
Tell me.
Irfan is fuckable. That's what it is.
Maybe, yeah. कुछ ऐसा यही हाँ
not for me. Definitely not for me.
नहीं कराची का टर्म है ना, मैला होना है ना, वो कुछ बर्गर होते हैं और कुछ मैले होते हैं, कुछ
See, by the way, Anila, thank you for confirming there is a term called burger, because these two have been making fun of me for so long about this. Thank you for this confirmation.
देखो, तीन आपके वोकैबुलरी में सीख जाओ. एक है पिंडी बॉय, ठीक है, which is a state of mind, ठीक है. एक है बर्गर, वो I think a burger is again very 90s. I don't know what to say now. एक है मैला, ठीक है, and मैला has nothing to do with hygiene. You understand that, right? It is just नवाजुद्दीन बेचारा मैला है, ठीक है. And इरफान जो है ना, बस कुछ मैं क्या बोलूं मैं, मतलब.
I think for me, Irfan is like the wisecracker friend in the group. He will sit you down and give you life lessons, and I will listen. And that is what he represents for me in cinema. Like from Namesakes, Ashok Ganguly to Rana in Piku, Kareeb Kareeb Single, Life in a Metro, Life of Pi, even his like Hutch ads, Kabutar Menga Pad Jayega Bhaiya and all of that. It's all of that. He plays such different characters in all of those movies, but it all brings it paints a complete picture in that Irfan image that I have in my mind.
अच्छा मुझे एक और बात याद आई, the commonalities जो हैं ऋषि की और इरफान की, both of them उन्होंने एक पाकिस्तानी एक्ट्रेस को लॉन्च किया था, सबा कमर, हिंदी मीडियम, and ज़ेबा बख्तियार, ऋषि कपूर. हाँ, before I forget that, ठीक है. अब ऋषि कपूर को देखो ना, उसने कितनी जगह दी उसने, है ना, ज़ेबा बख्तियार को देख लो, वो तो कुछ कहना नहीं चाहती, ठीक. ऋषि कपूर हमारे अंकल जी हैं, ठीक है, हो जाता है, थोड़ा बहुत हो जाता है ना, थोड़ा सा पी लेते हैं, हो जाता है, बट नहीं. I know all the woke people are going to hate me, once they listen to this, but nahi.
I don't know where to go from here.
खुला उनकी पड़ी है ना, वो कहते हैं ना कि बस फिर हो गया, फिर मैं पी लिया था, forgot, फिर मैं अगले next morning मैं भूल गया मैं क्या हुआ, है ना. So that has been his life. Yes.
I feel like
इरफान के लिए एक और एपिसोड होना चाहिए, है ना. मैंने तो हाईजैक कर लिया अपने ऋषि पर.
No, I feel like Irfan, like there's a feeling like he was on the, you know what? Okay. I think with Irfan, what I'm really mad about is that he's not going to be making more leading man roles in Hindi film, because I really enjoyed his film, like Maqbool, Piku, like Hindi medium, like all of those. Like I really enjoyed the fact that the films in which he could act opposite mainstream Hindi film heroines. Like he wasn't a Bollywood hero, but he was a Hindi film hero, and that's a very specific distinction. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed having that sound in the orchestra, and I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna be mad that that movie that he was going to make with Vishal Bharadwaj and Deepika, like that's never gonna happen now, and that is really sad.
What was the last movie you saw of his, Amrita?
Let's see. I actually saw, it wasn't I went back and I was watching In Treatment.
Right.
There was this show that he did where he plays, again, a Bengali. Like for a non-Bengali, he plays a lot of Bengali roles. It's kind of weird. But I watch Piku like quite often, I would say. Like it came out, 3-4 years ago? And I've probably seen it like 3-4 times, I think, since it came out. Yeah.
I actually, 3 episodes ago, I was talking about Maqbool, and then Sujoy, you watched it just after his passing or before his passing?
After his passing. I had not rewatched Maqbool since it came out, so I wanted to revisit it, and it's one of the first movies that Vishal Bharadwaj made, right, on the Shakespeare series readaptation, and I thought like Tabu and Irrfan were at the top of the game, but the movie is like, it hasn't aged well for me. It just feels very disjointed, the editing is all over the place, and the background score isn't right. It just irks me that it could have been what Heather became if that sort of finesse was put into Maqbool. It would have been much better, because the actors are way better in Maqbool. But that whole climactic scene when Tabu breaks down and says like "Hamara pyar paak tha na," that was, oh man,
I think it's when I was talking about Maqbool, I think that movie is already kind of so old that they were still trying to figure out this genre of filmmaking that it wasn't established yet, where there was this transitional period between smaller movies or artsy movies and it having like more commercial appeal, but because before it was just like parallel cinema, and it would be a very smaller world. I think with Maqbool it was kind of making step to
this was still like aimed at multiplex audiences, as they would call it,
and I think Irrfan had a lot to do with the development of cinema like that.
Because he could
like Life in the Metro was also that, right? It was played to the urban centers, and his character was trying to bridge the gap between the two, because he is a very a rural town who's come to urban place, and he knows the ways of the street, and then he tries to give life lessons to the Konkona Sen's character in that way.
Because Anila, like now that I'm thinking and talking about it, he's also played, like beside being Bengali characters, he's also playing quite a few Muslim characters too, right? When I think about it, like Maqbool, he was Karwan, Heather.
But Heather में उसका मुसलमान होना खैर मतलब was beside the point, right? It was like in Karwan he was Muslim. तो उसने बिरयानियाँ खाई थी, है ना? जब तक बिरयानी खाओ तो क्या? I just realized, how Rishi Kapoor had this pet peeve that films were written keeping Amitabh Bachchan in mind, and I have this feeling that films were written keeping Irrfan Khan in mind. It'd be very difficult to write these kinds of films anymore now, because there is so much Nawazuddin. मुझे ये लग रहा है Nawazuddin is going to be like that वो दिव्या भारती के लिए देवी जो बननी गई थी उसको सारी फिल्में खत्म करेंगे. मुझे यही लग रहा है.
Like, speaking of Rishi Kapoor though, like after his passing, the one movie that I managed to watch and I wanted to rewatch it for a long time was Luck by Chance, and he's still like that movie, like even though he's playing just one character in that whole bouquet of characters, Romy Roli, the producer of Bollywood movies, he plays it with such such perfection. He's emulating Subhash Ghai meets some Bollywood producer, and
No, I find it really ironic because Romy Roli, he says कि हमारे यहाँ property को property ही कहते हैं, right? And then when the RK studio did just become property for them, and when they sold it off, that really hit me somehow, because Yeah, I think yeah.
That's
I think for me, that is the day the Kapoor chapter ended for me. So I have to be very frank. I have this. I think Amrita again knows that my feelings about the current avatar of Amitabh Bachchan has always been that Amitabh I knew. वो कहीं वो कुल्ली के वक्त में ना बस उसको they've locked him up in a basement somewhere. This is someone else. So for me too, like the soul, the spirit of Rishi Kapoor and the Kapoors just kind of went away when they sold off the Chendu property.
I was going to ask, like, who is now like the official or unofficial custodian of like the RK legacy now? Is it Ranbir or is it Randhir?
Taimur.
But Taimur is like, I don't know, like I feel like
I when we were watching Masoom as kids, we were like kabhi na kabhi to Jugal Hansraj bada hoga, right? But it was such a big fail. अब ये सारा तैमूर पे यूजेनिक्स जो भी है ना सारा पैसा उस पे लगा हुआ है. The other thing I was Amrita, when part of the whole big argument, someone was running down this the Kapoors of Madhu Jain के उसके cover पे करीना क्यों है? And
करिश्मा हाँ
करीना fashion तो उसने वो पहना हुआ है पूरा. So yeah, like so someone was saying no, it's a patriarchal family, and I said, but this is really nice because this is Kapoor family is like South Asia for you. How women in South Asia, they are the new face, and they're giving it back. So you can really understand South Asia if you are like looking at the dynamics of the Kapoor family. So anyways, I think what they were going on and on about is इतनी छोटी skirt में वाली तस्वीर करीना कपूर, वो क्यों है? And for me, like Amrita, should I quote what I did from Rocky?
Yeah. Go on.
So anyway, so I said कि मैंने कहा कि रॉकी में एक जब रीना रॉय के कैरेक्टर को when they're putting her up उस पे नाचने में लगा रहे होते धंधे पे. So she's like, कोई middle class की है कि मुझसे नहीं होगा. तो वो मैडम उसे बोलती है, and she says कि गंदगी ना नाच में है, गंदगी ना नाचने वाली में है, गंदगी नाच देखने वालों में, right? So ये जो बोल रहे थे ना कि इसके कवर पे मतलब ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट क्यों नहीं, श्रद्धांजलि क्यों नहीं, कपूर्स को ये क्यों है, एंड जहाँ पे टशन फिल्म का है, फॉर मी दिस हैज बीन सच इतनी कितने लोगों का मतलब रोजी रोटी लगी हुई है. टशन ना होती, ना ये सैफ से मिलती, ना तैमूर होता, ये विरल बयानी किसकी तस्वीरें खींचता पूरा वक्त, राइट? रोजी लगा हुआ टशन से, आपको टशन को कैसे लात मार सकते हो? Really? Yes.
I mean, this lockdown period must have hit Viral Bhayani so bad, right? He's got no people.
नहीं वो मतलब अभी देखो, अभी बेचारे ऋषि कपूर took one for the team. उनके मतलब पूरे जनाजे पे कैसे लोग तस्वीरें खींची गई हैं. अभी क्या हुआ था, I think हेयर कट हुआ है, उसकी तस्वीरें आ रही हैं. नहीं वो करेंगे.
I have to say though, like the whole this thing that Indians have where they go to the funeral and they'll take the photos of the dead body and then they put it up on social media and on like news channels 24/7. It has to stop, man. Like it's just disgusting. Like don't do that to people. Like एक तो बंदा गुजर गया, उसके ऊपर से like you have to do this kind of shit, and like don't do it.
I even had trouble with that video where there's this doctor or ward boy singing next to Rishi, and it's like, why would you do? Like, I don't understand like how people cannot be like. I even see that sometimes at press conferences I go. You're going as some semblance of press, right? Okay, we're not professional, we're not, but the way people go crazy about selfies, I just never, and it's never been my thing, and I never understood it. So if you like, why is there no just? I don't know if he was a doctor or a ward boy or who that guy was, but it felt so invasive to film somebody because you want to sing a Besura song for the star you like. I don't understand that at all, and like I don't know, maybe some people find some solace in that, but I find it really awkward to look at those kind of things.
मैं तो सोच रही काश ऋषि कपूर की ड्रिप पे थोड़ी सी ब्लैक लेबल होती ना, उसी वक्त उसका गर्दन दबोच लेता. Though I was telling Amrita, though I'm mourning Irrfan Khan with Rishi Kapoor na, he has done this to us so many times. So interval के बाद में he does come back, right? So I am still waiting. Someone has to make a play, right? And now he might come back. So, yeah.
Acha, so everybody, if you had to, introduce Rishi or Irfan to somebody who's never seen any of their work, what movie would you recommend?
Oh wow. Oof.
Uh,
Um,
I'll go
go
first
for it.
because
Yeah, yeah.
I asked the question. I think for Rishi, I would suggest Curse.
Yeah.
Not the Himesh Reshammiya wala Curse, but the Rishi wala Curse. I think that's probably like the one Rishi movie that I have seen the most. Like Rishi movie. Probably Amar Akbar Anthony is the movie that I've seen the most, but Rishi wala movie I think is Curse. And then for Irfan, I would say Piku, just because it has, he does that leading man thing so well, and he does it so differently from pretty much everybody else this generation. And he does that deadpan delivery thing, and I really enjoy it. And it's a good film.
Sorry, which one did you say, Amrita?
Piku.
Pico. All right. I with Rishi, I'm a bit stuck because again, I don't. It's a tough question because do you want to introduce the heartthrob Rishi from Bobby era and your like that first era? Do you want to show a sweater Rishi, or do you want to show post Duduni Char kind of older Rishi? I think. What I would probably suggest is like either Bol Radha Bol or Damini.
Or what?
Damini.
But that's a Meenakshi movie, right?
It is, but I feel it's interesting because like the thing what you were saying about comparing Amitabh and Rishi Kapoor. Okay, Rishi did not have the weight of being like a cinema legend like the way Amitabh did, but it also gave him the freedom to do these kind of roles that no other hero at that time would, right? And in Damini, he's playing a very weak husband, right? Until the last of the moment, he's pretty much on the side of his family and creates, he's a villain that just gets saved at the end of the movie, to a certain redemption at the end of the movie. And I just think that is a gutsy move in that era for a hero to take, and I don't see any other actor being able to do that. And I think that just shows something about Rishi that I do appreciate, that he would take on Rauf Lala roles because he like, if we're talking about negativity, and reveling in it, that's like Amitabh in Aks, for example, right? That's one I could think about. But it's not the same. Like Aks, he's the main villain. The movie is around Amitabh being bad. Whereas in Agnipath, he's just an element of it, and he didn't want to take that role. And we've heard these stories before, even like Kapoor and Sons. He didn't want to take that role, but he took it on anyway. And I think that's something that I can appreciate in Rishi Kapoor, that he maybe didn't get dealt the best hands. And I think he's a lot of time even said that Amitabh wasn't fair the way he took on all of the space, but he still became kind of a legend in those roles. And I think that's why those two, I just remember Bol Radha Bol to be really fun, so that's why I added that. And it's kind of that sweater era, and also he's taking a backseat in both times for the female characters, like he did in Chandni, and I'm sure he did in many other roles. And I think he's still kind of, you could still see the charm and the kind of why he is a star, even though at that time he was quite overweight and not well dressed and not well kept. So that's how I see Rishi Kapoor.
What about Irfan?
Irfan, it's a tough one, but I think I would go with Talwar, weirdly enough. If not Namesake or Lunchbox or something like that, I would say Talwar, because it has that Irfanness of it. Everything that we know Irfan be as a person has Talwar has it, but it also like a very his character is never above the genre of the movie. The what the movie wants to do, and I think maybe that's where I see a similarity between Rishi Kapoor and Irfan, that they never wanted to go beyond the project that they were part of. And I think Talwar is kind of a good segue into that before being like, super hardcore or making people super sad. Although Talwar is also pretty sad, but I like Namesake, I can still cry, just thinking about Tabu putting her feet in those shoes. This maybe hits you less hard because it's just like a whodunit kind of conventional thriller genre. What about you, Anila? What do you think?
I don't know, with Rishi Kapoor, it's like, choosing your favorite child. I'm so lucky I only have one boy, theek hai. But I think with Rishi Kapoor, zamane ko dikhana hai, because for the kind of cinema it was, right? And I guess the promise that kisi na kisi din a truck with liters and liters of beer is going to topple over and mix into our water supply. There is that, but I would say, of course, luck by chance. Yes, Chandni for personal reasons. I don't know whether anyone else would kind of get it the way I did, right? But yeah, Chandni, yes, it told me about alternative health therapies like Tandav and getting people to start walking. There is that. But yes, I'm just trying to think. With Irrfan Khan, I think, just watching all of those Hutch Mobile and Vodafone ke ads, they're like a masterclass in acting itself, right?
Yeah.
But if it was the movie, definitely Life in a Metro, because somehow with all the other, of course, there was there were many interesting characters on screen, but when Irrfan would come, the screen would just light up, Like there was a perkiness to him, and his character was awesome. The life lessons, कि कभी गाड़ी को निकालो ना. He's like, I don't have an elder brother, but if I would, it would be this guy. Like when he takes up the phone and he's like, he puts on this Punjabi accent. It's just so Irrfan, and I think definitely that.
Sujoy?
For Rishi, I think my choice would be Khel Khel Mein because it's the movie that kind of defines the image of Rishi Kapoor and Neetu Singh on screen, and them two are meant to be together, and the music of the movie is just stuff of legends, absolute. Like there are other movies that have them two together and some great songs, but this one is just these two characters, and Khel Khel Mein would be my choice. It's of that era before the sweaters and all that, and if you're getting introduced to Rishi, I guess that's the movie to go for to realize why he is the heartthrob of a nation, or why he was the heartthrob of a nation. Irrfan, it's difficult, man. Like Namesake would be my go-to because, but I still. I will find it really hard to rewatch it, or for people to be just thrown into that. It's a pretty heartless act for people to just, in these hard times, to go through and experience that trauma of losing a dear one. I don't know. Saheb Biwi or Gangster Returns, that's a great one. I mean, Hindi medium, why not? I haven't seen Angrezi medium. I haven't seen Angrezi medium yet, but Hindi medium was quite fun.
Yeah, it's so weird because now we at the moment that soundtrack from Angrezi medium is Sophia's favorite at the moment. The Kudi Do Nachne De and Ek Zindagi. It's always playing, and it just now hits you differently. Those songs, it's and we were really planning to watch this movie, and now it just I don't know if I want to immediately watch Angrezi medium just because there is a bit more sadness to it. And it's so funny because just before he died there was The Killer was on TV, and I didn't watch it, but it was just 2 shots. I was like, wow, he was in a movie with Imran Hashmi, and he was playing a killer or a gangster, and I was making fun of it initially, and I was Irrfan tha, maybe it's interesting. And just that thought of, just because Irrfan is in there, it might be interesting. I don't know if a lot of actors would have that, with me. And the thing is with both of these also, with Irrfan and Rishi, they still have so many movies that I have not seen. So the movies you mentioned, both of you guys, I've not
Yeah.
seen them. I've not seen Khel Khel Mein. So
No, you have to watch Zamane Ko Dikhana Hai because that is the best Qawwali ever, right? And उसमें जो set design, जो red hearts, go pop, pop, pop till the girl, नहीं, you have to.
yeah, so I mean,
And-
even with Irfan, there's a lot of movies that I still have not seen. So in a
And
way,
that's-
yeah.
And that's really like one of the things that I was just thinking about after he died, because for Irfan, like he makes movies with Imran Hashmi, but he also makes movies with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
You know, like I was watching that every Bollywood party song that he
Yeah.
did with AIB. And there's a scene like they do a little skit before they do the song, and there's a line in it where his assistant answers the phone, and it's like Christopher Nolan on the other side. And he says, "Oh no, I'm sorry. Like Irfan doesn't have those dates. He's given them to Bhatt Saab." And but it's also true, like he's just as at home with Christopher Nolan as he would be with like Mahesh Bhatt or with like Vikram Bhatt. So yeah.
I would like to mention that he also did a sketch with the AIB to recreate all the memes.
Yes.
And he did that government big guy auntie. Government mein kuch nahi rakhta.
Also, I discovered, like, I was watching the behind the scenes video of that Bollywood party song, and it turned out like that whole thing was directed by Vasan Bala. Like, did you guys know that?
No,
I didn't.
only from your Twitter.
So strange, yeah. So he's even worked with Vasan Bala. There you go.
Well, I mean, I think we're running out of time that we'd allotted. So maybe we can wrap it up. Any specific thing we still wanted to add or talk about? I think we're done, no? Anila, did you have any burning?
No, I think but thank you so much for having me over. This was so much fun and quite painless, actually.
Yeah.
Anila was convinced we were going to eat her alive.
नहीं eat your life करने थे मैंने कहा वो going to be like वो जो एक वो नहीं होता कवालों का और हम नवा मैंने कहा था छोटू नाल से yes good point
No, and I think we wanted to, like, talk about these actors because they're so important, but we have to do it in the Khandaan style, right? So it's I hope people got some solace out of listening to us talk about it. But yeah, no, it was so fun,
a
and
good way, right? It's
Yeah,
also a good way that we don't mourn, but we are celebrating their work
Yeah.
in a way. So
Yeah.
kind of a
Right,
positive.
this is like a Jewish wake, right? मतलब you enjoy, you laugh, ये है मतलब
Yeah.
अगर मौलाना ऋषि ने तो कहा था कि अभी कोग्नाइट में होनी चाहिए थी बट वो तो खैर रोजे हैं तो बस otherwise
and the length of our podcast can sometimes be like, what is that called? Sitting Shiva? Is that the expression where they sit on a chair for 7 days? Like, that's how long our podcasts sometimes are. But yeah, Anila, it was so much fun, and I think we still need to get you on and like do like a proper movie, one that you've out of your
definitely
choosing.
भाई शेर ने खून का वो मुंह लग गया है ईमेलिंग अमृता एवरी डे मैम एक छोटा सा ख्याल आया है
So, Anila, where can people find you online or your work online?
Well, I have an Instagram account, Filmy Mama, and मेरी बुक सेज और योडा प्रेस करती है या प्लीज बाय इट मैं ईद पे अपने नए कपड़े खरीद सकूंगी मैं So just remember, I'm Babar. That's BAR. I get really perturbed. Like Babars ruled over this subcontinent for a good 300 years. ये राज बब्बर ने एक मूवी बना ली सबने So please आप असली अनीला बाबर पे जोर दें आप प्लीज Amazon में जाएं गूगल करें मेरी बुक खरीदें ठीक है
Yeah.
Yes, Mommy needs a new pair of shoes, huh?
Yeah, I like the evolution where Anila was quite shy at the start for promoting his Nike joote kharidne hain, kitab kharidne. This is the besharmi of Khandaan.
Yes, I know. तंदूर तैयार है एक दो चपातियां अपनी लगाई देती हूँ मैं है ना
Amrita,
wait till we find you यार Seriously, मतलब वही जहाँ कोई आता जाता नहीं हाँ तो yes
Acha, Anila is like quite terrible at shouting out her own book. So let me just tell people what the book is actually called, so you can actually Google it. It's called "We Are All Revolutionaries Here: Militarism, Political Islam, and Gender in Pakistan," and it's available on all online retailers in India and abroad. So please buy this book; it is really good.
Amrita, where can people find you online? And you books are now your thing. You
I
don't
forgot.
talking about people not promoting their stuff.
I wanted to put up like a few videos before I started promoting it. But
Okay.
yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ, but you can also see my Instagram or my brand new YouTube channel. It's called Amrita by the Book.
Arey wah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got a little 7-year-old fangirl in our house that is watching every video, at least.
My favorite audience member.
It was so funny because I was like, I didn't know because it was the second video and we've subscribed, right? So your face appears immediately on Apple TV as soon as you log in. So I was just like cooking and blending and making some smoothie or something, and he's like, "Papa, can you do it slowly? I want to hear what Amrita is saying." I was like, "Okay."
That is adorable. That is adorable. Yeah, really.
So Joy,
You know,
where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at 9e3k.
Great. And I'm at Asim Bernie. You can follow us at upodcasting.com or send us an email at upodcasting@gmail.com. Leave us a review and stay safe. I think people are kind of giving up on Corona. People, it's still out there. Stay inside. It's not done yet. So yeah, thanks for listening. This was fun, Anila.
okay.
Sorry, I was
Chalo.
wrapping up a little bit because I know we have a hard cut, right? So I was like just getting things moving along.
Okay. So I'll just write Khandaan and save this now.
Yeah.
And then you can just send it to.
Yara, it is 1 minute 19. No, 1 hour 19 minutes.
Yes.
So, but you will let me know now, Amrita, the logistics of getting it across.
You can just send it on depending on like the size of your of the file, you can send it on WhatsApp or I think if it's anything below like 50 MB, then you can send it on WhatsApp. Otherwise, you can just upload it on Google Drive and then you can
हाँ
get.
मेरे ख्याल में यही करना पड़ेगा because it's a well let's see क्या होता है हाँ.
Yeah. Well, I'm following you on Twitter too. If you need anything, just send me a tweet or something. But we have each other on email too, right? In any case, so it should be fine. And I'm actually gonna order your book because that sounds all very interesting. So at least you have one customer from this.
यार मतलब खैर चले. But this was okay. Now I have to rush and prepare iftari. But I'm really serious. I really enjoyed this. And this keeps me out of mischief. So, do invite me again.
Yes. Yeah, it's so much fun.
And I promise मैं और footage नहीं खाऊंगी. I've got all of my jokes out of my system now, right? All of the awkwardness out. So next time I can be more serious.
No, this is good. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.